Ever since you were a child, you were told certain things aren't real. Ghosts, angels, demons, vampires, werewolves. The monster under your bed, the one in your closet. It's a comforting thing we've all been told all of our lives. But what do you do when you find out that the monster under the bed isn't so imaginary? What do you do when you find the devil is real? Sometimes people find these things out, and that's when they come to me. Join me, Kevin Mears, demonologist, for a look at the paranormal on my new YouTube video, Paranormal Encyclopedia. We're going to be talking about the things that go bump in the night and why sometimes there really are such things. Good evening, and welcome once again to the Paranormal Encyclopedia. I am, as always, your host, Kevin Mears. So, I had been debating for a while what to do for a topic for tonight, but recent circumstances has kind of settled it for me. I'm going to be talking about what we call grounds. It's also sometimes called invitation. So this is the answer to one of the more common questions we get of, well, if demons are real, why don't they just possess everybody? Why don't they possess the president? Why don't they possess the people with the nuclear launch codes? The answer, well, there's a lot of different factors involved, but one of the most basic concepts here is a concept called grounds. Ed Warren, the well-known demonologist I've talked about many times, used to say that if demons could, there wouldn't be anybody had free reign, there wouldn't be anyone left alive. Grounds is permission that they get to come into our life and mess things up. Demons can't just show up whenever they please and do everything they want. The traditional Christian reason for this, of course, is God made laws that say they can't do that. There are other theories and other explanations. But, yeah, surprise, surprise, I'm the Christian. I tend to interpret it as God says so, demons have rules. A lot of this comes really down to the Christian concept of free will. You can have a demon if you want a demon. If you really don't want a demon, it's harder for the demon to get in. Usually, demons get the permission they need to enter your life through one of two ways. There are others, and I'm going to get into those as well. But the two most common are what's called the law of invitation and the law of attraction. Really simple concepts on the surface. The law of invitation is if you invite the demonic into your life, the demonic can enter your life. And then the law of attraction is that like calls to like. Good calls to good, evil calls to evil. Let me get into a little bit more about what I mean by the law of invitation, and then I'll explain the law of attraction. And this doesn't really relate to the book or the whole goofy The Secret. But let's talk invitation. Now, invitation is by far the most common. When someone has a demon in their house or someone becomes possessed, invitation is usually how they got there. Now, there's a lot of different theories about what causes invitation, but it pretty much comes down to someone giving permission to a demonic spirit to enter their life. Usually this is either a very direct invitation through ritual black magic and Satanism. And be clear, I'm not talking about non-Christian religions. I'm not saying that everyone who doesn't worship my God worships the devil, that all magical practice is satanic. That's not the point I'm making. But there are people out there who choose to worship Satan. Okay, let's get a little more technical here. Satanism. There's really three things that you can mean when you refer to Satanism. To go over the three. The first one is the Worldwide Church of Satan, is LaVeyan Satanism, which isn't really Satanism. They call themselves Satanism mostly because they want to piss people off and cause a lot of shock value. It's really a form of hedonistic philosophy, for lack of a better word, that believes in doing what you enjoy, doing what gives you pleasure. Satan is used simply as a symbol for base human desire. These desires are to be indulged. I have a lot of issues with LaVey's form. Anton LaVey's, what I mean by LaVey and Satanism, form of Satanism, and its morality and its ethics. But by and large, these aren't the people I mean when I talk about Satanism. As I said, truth be told, LaVey loved to shock people. If you look at what LaVey said, what LaVey did, how LaVey acted, he was a glory hound and full of publicity stunts. Man was a lion tamer before he was the leader of the Church of Satan. He didn't claim to worship the devil. He did not endorse violence. He didn't endorse criminal activity. In fact, there's been a couple of relatively recent examples where someone who was a member of the Church of Satan told the church that they wanted to sacrifice someone to the devil, and the church turned them into the cops. They're not generally criminals. There are criminals that associate themselves with the Worldwide Church of Satan, but they're not really endorsed by the church. There's some other churches, churches of Satan that all fall into the same category. For example, there's a very recent one that wanted to put, I believe is in the process of erecting a statue of Satan on public grounds, mostly because there's a copy of the Ten Commandments there. Go for it. I don't particularly like Satan, but I do believe in free speech, and if you're going to allow the one, logically you should allow the other. And frankly, I generally find this form of Satanism some of the funniest things you'll find. So I think go for it, more power to them. Let people see what they think and why personally I find it so silly. But I'm not really... I've already said more about them than I really wanted to. So let's get on to Type 2. Type 2 is what's more properly known as demonolatry. It's the actual worship of Satan that you see in the movies and TV shows. It's most common among teenagers. Often kids pick up ideas of what Satanism is through heavy metal music, through various movies, and I'm not saying that heavy metal music is evil or that these movies are evil, but people see what's being done for artistic reasons and go, oh, I want to try that. I want to summon, praise be to Satan. And there are also adults that get into it. There are people that take this very seriously. It's a mistake to think it's all children. There's been a number of murders associated both by teenagers and adults. Although we're going to get... There are serial killers associated with Satanism, and I'm going to talk about them when I get into the third type. But this type of demon worship, and it's not just Satan because they call it by other names, is where you start getting into more criminal things, more illegal things, and actual practice of black magic. There are accepted forms of what they call theistic Satanism, which is what we're talking about here. Since Satan's not a god, I tend to dislike that term. But there's the Church of Set, for example. That's basically a semi-legitimate, recognized form of devil worship. These guys certainly cause a lot of trouble. And yeah, if you want to go and worship the devil, you're inviting him in. It's kind of the idea of what you're doing. And then there's the third group. And this one, talking about this one sometimes gets me in trouble because people misunderstand what I mean. There's a particular branch of black magic, and not again, I'm not saying that all practitioners of magic are evil. I'm talking about a specific group that start with ideas that you find in LaVey's Satanism, and particularly get into ideas you'll find in the book of Genesis and Isaiah. If you go back and watch the video about Satan, you're going to see some of these ideas about how, in the garden, in chapter 3 of Genesis, the serpent tells Eve, if she eats of the fruit, she will not die, she will become like God. When Lucifer rebelled and became Satan, He wanted to become like the Most High. He wanted to ascend his throne above the stars. This is the essence of the third type. It's this belief that the practitioner in question is God. Or a God, at least. And since they are God, they don't have to answer to anyone or anything. They don't answer to moral law. They don't answer to God. They are God. No one can tell them what to do. Anything they desire to do is acceptable because they make the rules. Now, the thing that you'll find here is the mindset of psychopaths, particularly serial killer psychopaths, tends to follow along these lines. They think they're God. They think they're better than everyone else. They think they're real and no one else is. So it doesn't matter if they go and kill people. If they want to kill people, that's their right. Now, if you look at certain serial killers, certainly not all serial killers, but if you look at Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, David Berkowitz, also known as the Son of Sam, Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, and many, many more, they talk in interviews about an interest in Satanism, an interest in black magic. They use occult terms. They refer to themselves as occult beings. Ted Bundy, for example, famously said it during court that sometimes he thought he was a vampire. And we're going to be getting into serial killers and talking about specific serial killers in future episodes. The main thing to see here is there's a definite relationship between the two mindsets. This isn't to say all serial killers are Satanists or all Satanists of this type are serial killers, but there's definitely a relationship. But yeah, so people who practice black magic, people who worship the devil, people who actually try to summon up spirits of demons, get demons. Not a big concept here. Also, most of the people who summon demons don't call people like me because they want the demon they have, right? The other way that invitation happens is where most average people get in trouble. And that is through indirect invitation. Most commonly, more often than any other form of invitation I or any other investigator I know of comes in contact with, this is the Ouija board. There are people out there that will tell you, oh, Ouija boards are perfectly safe. You just have to follow certain rules. I'll tell you from past experience, I've had people contact me with demonic spirits in their house that swear up and down, yes, I use a Ouija board, but I use it the right way. If you're using it the right way, why do you have a demon in your house? Think it through. Now, this isn't to say that every time you use a Ouija board you contact a demon. The reality is the vast majority of the time when you use a Ouija board you don't contact anything spiritual. There's a phenomenon known as the ideomotor effect. But okay, so it's the ideomotor effect. Basically, your muscles move without conscious awareness. This is what causes the planchette on the Ouija board to move. This is what causes the pendulum to swing when people do that kind of thing. Most of these table tipping, where the table bounces up and down when people put their lightly rest their hands on it, all come back to this effect. It's perfectly natural. It's not unexplained. And the various tests have demonstrated this. For example, a common one that's been done several times is they blindfold the people using the Ouija board and then flip the Ouija board the other way, and it still keeps spelling out letters. As if the board was oriented. Excuse me, I'm very sleepy tonight. Oriented properly. And even when you get a spirit through the board, sometimes it's a demon, sometimes it's something else. It's very critical to realize Ouija boards are not going to contact angels. Angels don't need a Ouija board to talk to you. If they want to talk to you, They're going to do it their own way. If they don't want to talk to you, you can't make them talk to you. Same thing for redeemed souls that have passed on to the other side. You can't make them come back. It's up to them. They have their own methods. You might be able to get some earthbound spirits and some other types of spirits. The biggest problem you're going to deal with a Ouija board is that the majority of users have no way of knowing what they've contacted. You have the spirit's going to tell you whatever it thinks you want to hear, but you don't know if it's telling the truth or if it's lying. Are there ways to use it safely? Maybe. Most of the friends I have, the pagan friends I have and the magician friends I have, will point out that by the time that you understand how to use a Ouija board safely, you don't need it anymore. There are better, more effective, safer techniques. And again, a lot of people get themselves in trouble because they think they know what they're doing and really don't. You don't know what you're contacting something, and you'll really, unless you're a trained psychic who can check yourself and knows how to open themselves, you really don't know what you've contacted. All you've got is what it's telling you, and spirits lie regularly. There's nothing special about the board that prevents it from lying to you. Just because it says it's Aunt Edna doesn't mean it's Aunt Edna. This is what often gets people in trouble. Like I said, more than anything else, Ouija boards are the source of a lot of problems. I don't recommend using them, period. There are other things, just the Charlie game that was going on around a while back. A lot of people, you lay the two pencils over yes, yes, no, no. Eventually it came out that it was actually being used to promote a movie, which I thought was actually a very clever way to advertise a movie. Although in reality it's actually based on older traditions similar to the Ouija board, going back to, I want to say, Italy. Spain. It's actually a Spanish tradition. But it's the same sort of thing. Whenever you're trying to contact a spirit, especially when you're using something like the board, where you're actually giving over control of part of your body to the spirit, you're taking a risk. It's not a good idea to go trying to reach out and touch someone on the other side if you don't know what you're doing. Now, the other type of way that spirits regularly get into your life is the law of attraction. Like calls to like. Certain types of people tend to draw demonic spirits. Now, there are Christians that will tell you that anyone who does anything they find questionable has a demon. Let me give you some examples. That I'm really not making this up. If you look at some of the more fundamentalist evangelicals, and there's a book I don't recommend except for humor value, perhaps, which is called Diary of an Exorcist, Manual on Demonology. You'll find demons like junk food, Pac-Man, oral sex, homosexuality, drug addiction, alcoholism. This isn't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about rapists, child molesters, murderers, the dregs of human society. One of the common times I've seen this particular type of possession, at least written about it, it's not a common one, it's not one I've encountered myself, is people who practice necrophilia, sex with dead bodies, often have these kinds of problems. Personally, I'm inclined to think there's, and again, we're going to be getting into this soon, don't worry, I know I keep promising things, but there's so many topics to cover, and this isn't a short-term series, we're going to be going a long time. But given Hitler was most likely a materialist who had no overt belief in the occult, I think the atrocities that he committed opened him to demonic attack. You commit that many murders coldly, callously, for no good reason, you open yourself up. Instead of the explicit invitation you get with the first way, it's implicit. You've done something evil and you've drawn evil to you. The other common way that you'll have a demon in your life is pretty much bad luck. If you move into a house where one of the first two happened, you may inherit somebody else's problems. If you buy an object that was used in satanic ritual or other types of rituals that contact demonic spirits, you may inherit, or just simply was cursed for some reason, and we're going to get to curses in a minute, you can wind up with a demon in your house even though you didn't do anything to bring it in. Most of the time, though, it's the person did something. You'll see huge lists, by the way, online. In fact, one of the things that motivated this video is the recirculation of a list that included, let's see, old comic books, cyberpunk culture, goth subculture, Dungeons and Dragons, Pokemon, Harry Potter. These are written by these types of lists are usually written by people with no understanding of the actual occult, no understanding of actual demonology, and who if they ever saw a demon, would run off screaming like a little girl the other direction. Most of these things are completely harmless, which isn't to say there aren't people in the goth subculture who have a demon for other reasons, but anyone who's seen me lecture knows I frequently lecture at goth conventions. Goth people, in my experience, are very wonderful people. They aren't usually demonically possessed. And if they are, it's not because of being goth. Cyberpunk, same thing. Harry Potter is not devil worship. In fact, J.K. Rowling, the author of the books, is a devout Christian, has commented on that more than once. The Christian symbolism in the final book of the series is overwhelming, to say the least. In fact, she deliberately downplayed her own religious beliefs because she didn't want to give away as much of the plot as she thought it would. Most people who practice Wicca and non-Christian religions are not getting possessed by demons. A lot of this is just nonsense. Usually the types of things that invite spirits in are either extreme acts of evil or something that deliberately occult, designed to summon spirits, done by someone who doesn't know what they're doing. Magicians summon spirits. They have experience, they have practice, they have some idea of what they're getting into. We're talking, a lot of the times when people have a problem, it's because they don't know what they're doing. So there are two more ways that you can get a demon in your life, both of which again fall under this you didn't do anything wrong category. One is being cursed. Curses are unfortunately real and they have power. If you don't want to take my word for it, and as I've said more than once, do your research, look things up, check me. You can look up a phenomenon known as voodoo death. Voodoo death is circumstances in which someone who dies for no medically explainable reason, often that is the subject of a curse. The practice of cursing goes back thousands of years. It is serious business. People do die from them. There are ways to break them, and sometimes if you are the subject of a curse, often, you're going to wind up with something demonic in your life, particularly depending on what type of curse it is. Curses are serious business. This is, if you're using a Ouija board and you're starting to have problems, one of the best things you can do is get rid of the Ouija board. 9 times out of 10, that'll solve the problem. Curses is often where things are going to get more serious. It's not a pleasant situation, to say the least. And we'll be talking more about curses in a future episode. But I want to touch briefly on the last type of invitation, which is very, very, very rare. I've never seen an example of this personally. It happens maybe a handful of times in a generation, probably not even that often in a century, which is what's called a soul victim. Some people who are very, very, very pious, very holy, draw demons to them just by virtue of their faith. It's hard to pick specific examples of this because it is so rare. Most of the examples I can readily name that are confirmed examples have either A, been canonized by the Roman Catholic Church, or B, are on their way to being canonized by the Roman Catholic Church. A real good example of this is a man well known by many, once as Padre Pio, now he's of course Saint Pio, who was a very devout member of the Franciscan order. He was what they a proper traditional mystic, meaning he actually lived and communicated two ways with God. He had the stigmata, the wounds of Christ. He was a very pious, very devout man, associated with many healings, exorcisms, other miraculous events. Now, reports of his life, and this isn't always for public consumption, but some of the books about him have talked about it, do discuss him coming under demonic attack. This isn't because he had done something wrong. This is because he was such a pious man and such a devout follower of God. It opened him to attack as his form of test. Soul victims are not common. Like I said, it's a very rare thing. It does happen. Most of the time, the reality is you wind up with a spirit in your life because of one of the other reasons. Demonic attack is usually not random. Because again, people have free will. Free will is you have demons because you want demons. I want to comment as well on a common misconception among certain Christians. Yes, Christians can have a demon in their life. Let me say it again because this needs to sink in for people. Just because you're Christian doesn't give you a get out of jail free card. You have free will. If you want to have a demon in your house, you're going to have a demon in your house. Being a Christian isn't going to stop it. Keep that in mind. It's an important concept. It's a concept that gets overlooked. Now, having had a baptism, which is technically a lesser form of ritual of exorcism, having your house blessed, which is also a lesser form ritual of exorcism, are forms of protection that help prevent this from happening. But just because you have any given set of religious beliefs doesn't automatically make you safe. And this idea that it does is a dangerous misconception. You can't mess around with things that violate that. From a Christian perspective, you can't mess around with things that flagrantly violate God's law and not face consequences. God says necromancy, which is what Ouija board is a minor form of. You are trying to contact the dead for the purposes of divination. The Bible says you can't do that. You can't summon demons. That's against the Bible. If you do you're opening a door. Then there's another concept that's interesting to know, and it's going to be elaborated on a little more when I get into possession, which is an episode of itself, which is, again, free will is a cornerstone of understanding all of this. Your free will is a major reason why you become possessed. It's why certain things work. It's why things happen. The true stage of possession, and I should say there's a progression to demonic attack. Rounds, what we're talking about now, is kind of stage 1. Stage 2, which we'll be talking about soon in the coming weeks, is called infestation. Then you have obsession, oppression. You have possession, and then you finally have death and destruction. But to reach that point of possession, where the spirit actually has a claim on your soul and on your body, and is making you do things without any say-so on your part, requires an act of free will. You have to give it consent. Without that consent, it can't take that final claim on you. And that undercuts a lot of the point with grounds. What you're doing and what you're not doing isn't necessarily as central as your exercise, how you exercise free will. If you want trouble in your life, you're gonna get the trouble. It doesn't matter if you practice some 3,000-year-old ritual of Satanism, of black magic that's been handed down since Babylon, or if you do something you read in a Harry Potter novel, or saw in a black death metal music video. It doesn't have to be ancient. It has to be will. You have to have the desire. And again, by saying that, I am not picking on Harry Potter. I am not picking on death metal. They're just two examples. If you want trouble, you're going to get trouble. If you don't want trouble, it gives you protection. Your will to say no becomes very important and essential, in particular to protection, which we're going to be getting to probably in our very next episode, I think, because protection is really important. But remember, if you want trouble, you're going to get trouble. If you don't want trouble, stay away from things. Stay away from things that directly deal with the summoning of spirits. If you don't summon up a demon if you don't want a demon in your house. It's not a complicated concept, people. And if you do and you mess it up, you need to restore. And it's another thing, and I'm going to get on a soapbox, but there are generally a couple of types of people that contact someone like me for help. Some of the more amusing, personally, are certain types of black magicians. Now, not all magicians, not all black magicians, not all people who summon demons do this. Don't think I'm saying that. But there's a certain subset of black magicians who like to pick on the Christian demonologists for some reason or other. One set of them does it because my God's bigger than your God. My God's bigger than your God. Really, that's all it is. I want to prove that Satan is more powerful than God. It's pretty childish, but it happens. The other group, which is the one I find the most amusing, is usually someone inexperienced who doesn't know what they're doing will summon up a demon and they'll screw up something. They won't do the sacrifice they're supposed to do. They don't do the proper respect to the devil and the demon, or the demon in question. They make some mistake somewhere along the line, and then they go, I need you to fix this. The demons I summoned aren't doing what I told them to do anymore. I need you to come make them all behave so I can go back to doing what I was doing. I'm not here, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm not here to help you summon demons. If you summoned one up and you realize this was a terrible idea, yeah, I'm happy to help. If you summon one up and you think this is a great idea, you just need to make it play nice again, you're looking at the wrong guy. I am not demon obedience school, okay? Nor can I recommend anyone that's going to give you demon obedience school. If that's what you're looking for, keep looking. I'm specifically here to help people who have a problem, who need help, who want it gone, not that want it to play nice. This brings us to an end for the night. Again, a little longer than usual. I hope you enjoyed it. Questions and comments are always welcome. Please use the comments below. If you like, you can also go to our new website, which is Paranormal Encyclopedia. That's all one word, Paranormal Encyclopedia.webs.com. We've got a message board set up there. You can share your thoughts, your comments, your opinions. You can get into general conversations about the paranormal. I'll probably chime in from time to time with interesting tidbits. Please share it, subscribe it, hit like, tell your friends. And thank you very much. I am your host, Kevin Mears, the Paranormal Encyclopedia, wishing you a good night and God bless.